Zest is in, where resilience begins, not fixing the cracks, letting the light.
Hello everyone and welcome to Zest is in with me, Shel Marie, the podcast that takes you on a journey from the hustle to the harmony, fueling your passion whilst finding your peace. Today we are diving into such a powerful conversation on gratitude, faith and presence, three deeply grounding principles that can shape the way we navigate life, leadership, uncertainty and purpose. In a world that often moves incredibly fast, many of us are searching for something deeper, more peace, more clarity, more meaning in the moments that shape our lives, and much, much more. Gratitude, faith, and presence can act as powerful anchors, helping us reconnect with ourselves, trust the journey we are on, and lead our lives with greater intention and awareness. With that in mind, I am truly honored to welcome you all to our incredible panel of extraordinary leaders and change makers, each bringing their own powerful presence and perspective to this meaningful collaboration we're about to share with you all today. So get ready to listen up and hear what they have to say. First of all, I'm delighted to introduce Dr. Wendy Lebet. She is also known as the financial healer, CEO of Financial Cures, LLC, and author of the best-selling Financial Cures series, helping individuals heal their relationship with money and build generational wealth. Next, welcoming back Robert Pruitt, also known as Prue, a globally recognized metaphysical guide and transformational facilitator who has appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show, collaborating with Iyanla Vanzant, Fix My Life, as well as supporting millions of people worldwide in deep spiritual and personal transformation. For some reason I need take a little air. It's already incredible energy today. Also joining us again today, we have the incredible Francis Strickland, founder of Vero-led Biz Solutions, former European HR leader for SC Johnson, supporting SMB leaders in building sustainable, soul-aligned business success. And finally, and absolutely not least, welcoming back another phenomenal voice like here today, Dr. D'Angelo Richardson, a global keynote speaker, author, educator, and executive coach, helping leaders and organizations create meaningful impact, purpose, and lasting legacy. Wow, wow, wow. Today, we'll explore how gratitude, faith, and presence influences the way we lead, live, serve, and grow, both personally and professionally. And if you haven't done so already, share a little love by subscribing to this incredible podcast so that these powerful voices can reach many more hearts and minds. And if you have done so already, thank you, much love. And enough of me talking, let's really dive into this powerful conversation that is about to take place today. Much gratitude to you all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Beautiful. So something that I would really love to start with, and again, whoever wants to start is more than welcome, is most of my life, I very much lived by, okay, this is a ring, I can see it, I believe it. This is whatever, I can see it, now I believe it, and I have full faith, I have full trust, and I have full knowing. And then I very much realized that and this again is my perspective, it's not the perspective, but real, true faith is really believing often before seeing. What do you think about that?
I think I'll break the ice if someone else doesn't want to.
No, you go ahead. I'll come after.
Yes, faith is it's very easy to believe something where you can already see, or you know that you can produce tangible results. And if you need to see the results to believe, then it just means that you are proving, or something has been proven to you to be possible, to give you the belief that it too can be done or replicated. But to not know that something is in your path or something is coming, and you know it's going to happen, or you know something is going to happen inside of you or around you, or just anywhere, and to see it happen, having no understanding of how it's going to arrive, when it's going, like you have no comprehension of anything that is going to align that moment in time. That's faith. And like I've said this before in many different spaces, that I'm really big on things that are written in the Bible. And it says that faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things unseen. So if faith is the substance of things hoped for, it just means that it's the substance or tangible evidence. It's something that you believe that you can strive for to produce whatever outcome you want to see within yourself. But that's striving for an outcome to make you a believer of your own capabilities, which is abstract, or the opposite of what we should be experiencing, which is to surrender what we would like to happen and allow him to do it for us, so that we come into what we would call the full revelation of it. So faith being the evidence of things unseen is you don't see it, you don't know it, you don't even know what it looks like. In fact, it's something that's beyond what you can imagine. So faith as the substance of things hoped for, that's our will. The evidence of things unseen, that's his will. And both those roads can be traveled to bring us to the absolute outcome of what he wants anyway. So it doesn't really matter, because in the end, we'll still see faith being produced as something that he wants us to see, to show us who he is. But it still starts within. It is a belief in the unseen.
I found that faith has, a different definition based on, I guess, your level of belief in your higher being or whatever. Because, when you're young, faith is what you see. You have faith in what you see, and it's based on your timing. If I want to do something and I achieve it, then I got faith in it because I did it when I planned to do it. But when you have true faith, it's about when he does it, and you have to accept that. So when it doesn't happen in your timing, you say, okay, now my faith is based on his timing. So the definition has turned from faith based on what you see on your timing to faith in what you want and don't see based on his timing. So, the more mature I got spiritually and, chronologically, faith strengthens, because I know from experience that it doesn't have to be in my time, and it doesn't have to be what I want per se right then. It has to be what God's will says I'm supposed to have. And if I'm supposed to have it, I'm going to get it. And if I don't, if it's not mine, I'm not going to get it. So, that the faith definition has changed for me over the years.
I love that.
In my life, I go back to this word, knowledge, because everything that D'Angelo and Dr. Wendy said, Dr. D'Angelo, okay, what you said, I 100% align. It's two parts. One thing is, we kind of get this experience where we set out with something and we realize it, and then that whole situation where you really just don't know, and you see it unfolding. And with that unfolding, that's when you get this epignosko, where you know the power of God, Holy Spirit in your life, because you've experienced it. And along with that, you experience his timing. You experience how he brings into fruition your desire that's best for you. Because my experience has been, when he makes it happen, it is peace. It's no further discussion. It is peace. There's no loose strings. And once you experience it, then you can't help but live in the faith, because because you've had that experiential knowledge of his power.
So good. Here's what has shown up in my walk. If I need evidence of it or proof, there is no faith. So
Yes.
you put it in the context, Shel, how we lead in life, how we lead in work and business. So if I need the contract to show up, if I need proof, there's no faith in that moment. The moment that I'm searching for proof or evidence. Let's just put it in the context of relationships. Anybody ever have a list? Oh, so that's what we're doing, Shel? So do you remember the last time? And then I go down the list. The last time that you said, but you didn't do, and then the time before that when you said, that's a list. I've got evidence. And if I have evidence, I don't have to operate from faith. Matter of fact, I can use the evidence as a predictor of future events. And we have psychological, dispositions and canons that say the best predictor of future events and past experience. Okay, but that doesn't always hold true, because the beauty for me in faith is a knowing.
Yes.
For me.
Yeah.
I understand what I also mean when I say I don't know. What I mean is I don't know how it's going to show up, when it's going to show up, if the timing's going to align. And that has everything to do with all that is happening behind the scenes of my imagination. The God, Spirit, Divine Mind, the universe, by whatever name people refer to the Most High. Whatever's happening, I've got nothing to do with that. I order something from Amazon, I've got nothing to do with what's happening behind the scenes. And I know when my faith is tested in Amazon, when they hit me with the delay message. You said this would be delivered between 2 and 3. It is now 3:05. Faith is right out the window. There wasn't any faith. I was looking for proof because they've been consistent. So in my walk with God, if I recognize that there's a variance and how I am in relationship, God, how come you didn't show up this time? God, there seems to be a delay. What I'm really having a conversation about is 2 things. My capacity to maintain faith when I don't know your timing, but the thing I do know is that I can see it and I can feel it and I can sense when the thing that is the desire aligns energetically with what God says is for me. I may not know all the details, but if my desire is outside of the context of what is for my greatest and highest good, that's usually when I go into I want to see evidence of it. And then the prayer looks like begging, because the prayer and the conversation mirror the fear. So there's no faith. But when there's faith, like what Fran said, when there's faith, there's a calm and there's a peace. And that is a knowing that does not require that I have evidence of how it will unfold. That's just, the personal journey.
Wow, beautiful. And what I've kind of picked up from all of you is thinking about the Amazon delivery, for example, they say the consumerism, not saying we're talking about consumerism, but we want it now, okay? And we want it to come now. But often what I found as well is there's a reason for the delay. And even though in those moments it seems like all is not going to happen, when you stop and you look and you're like, that was so cleverly put together. Wow. And if I would have intervened, which we can, and we can have it now if we want, but we might not receive exactly what it is we were supposed to receive. So I've learned that, okay, no, I believe in the prayer or the intention I've sent out, and I believe it's going to come back. It always does, because that's what I get to believe. And I know that if there is a delay now, there is a reason for that delay. And it's very much different to, oh, maybe that's not for me, because we kind of talk ourselves out of things. And I was actually listening to something, I'd love your takes on this. I was actually listening to something today about often it's so generational that what we don't realize is what we are doing now, you never know the impact of that in generations to come, of what you did, then the next person did, and the next person, in order for someone down the line to, it was actually talking about how a particular tree had to be planted 150 years ago in order for that member of that family to climb the tree, in order to see someone special walking past, to be met at that moment for them to be invited to their house. You see, it's like, wow, it's mind-blowing. Sorry, I just felt like I had to mention that.
I believe that everything And I'm really big on referencing the Bible, not all the time, but very oftentimes and none, where Paul says, and we know that all things work together for the good to them who love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. But in theory and in the practicum of what we're experiencing in the world, all of us serve some type of purpose in one way or another, whether we know it or not. And another part of Mr. Pruitt's explanation and how he talks about just faith just being the baseline, the foundation of everything. It's our human nature to misrepresent the concept of how everything actually happens to produce a future outcome, even if we're not there to experience it ourselves. And even we might not even, we may just take, for instance, if we planted a tree today, we would think we're doing it for our own vain reason, not even realizing that someone's going to enjoy it and it's going to be the best part of their life in maybe another 100 years. And that very same tree might be the tree that someone can attribute their acknowledgement or them just being able to recognize like how God puts things in place in time just for them in the moment. You know, like it's the things that there are things that happen in the world that does not look like it's God doing it, but it is. And the good, the bad, the indifferent, the sufferings, everything, it's him. We don't like that part of him because we disassociate it with our expectation of what love is, what faith is, what everything we think or believe we understand about him. We have an expectation to be able to know when, where, what, why, and how he moves. And it's beyond our knowledge. You know, I believe that one of the things that we're lacking, and it's not to say that we're lacking much of anything, because we all get what we need in the moments, but we don't spend enough time talking about how good things are proven to be good because of the bad, and bad things are proven to be bad because of the good. And they both work together to help us get a collective understanding of how God needs to do things the way he does it for us all to get an understanding of who he is and why he is the supreme of whatever. So it's kind of like a ego crusher. You look up and realize, well, faith just proved me that I don't have to worry about anything because it's happening. It's because he wants it to.
I found that, or my perspective now, is that there is no bad or no mistakes. You know, they're only mistakes if you don't learn from them. And it's only bad if you look at the bad in them. You know, I've been through a whole lot, and you have to look at the bright side. You know, I'm a breast cancer conqueror, and, you know, I talk about in my story how I lost all my hair, my nails, my lashes. You know, I literally had no fingernails or toenails, you know, and my brows, everything was gone. But then I said, well, I saved a fortune on salon visits, manicures, pedicures. So, you know, that was a blessing, even though physically I looked like a skeleton with a layer of skin. But there is good in everything. And then when you go through something that you think is traumatic, when you get past that, you look back and say, okay, Jesus, thank you for putting me through that, because it gives you it takes you to another level as a person, as a spiritual being, and as somebody that can kind of share that experience with someone who's going through it. So, you know, but back in the day, if something bad happens, like, God, what happened? Why are you doing this to me? You know, because it was based on what I thought, you know, my timing. But then as I progressed and got through it, it's like, okay, I see why you took me through that. Thank you. That was, you know, what I needed. I didn't think I needed at that time, but, you know, as time went on, it was a blessing versus something bad that happened.
Mm-hmm. Welcome to perspective, right?
Yeah, perspective.
It's like I love the Wizard of Oz. Here's a question that I play with now. What makes the Wicked Witch wicked? Because they told us that's her name? And then we jump into it. Oh, that's the Wicked Witch of the East, and that's the one that's under the house, and that's the Wicked Witch of the West. But that's not who she is. That's a title that we've given to her behavior. But without her contrast in the story, Dorothy never gets to see that the way she was behaving in the beginning of the movie mirrors how the Wicked Witch was behaving in the end, if you will. And most of the time, we miss the opening scene of The Wizard of Oz sets it up. Most of the time, that's not the part of the movie that we talk about. We talk about the journey down the yellow brick road. We talk about our companions. We talk about the monkeys, right? We talk about the poppy fields. We talk about the Emerald City. We talk about the witch melting. But no one talks about the part where Miss Gulch comes to get Toto. And she says, I'm tired of Toto running through my garden and messing with my cat. Now, I don't know about y'all, but I'm at 60. And there were certain lawns I could not run across, even though it was a shortcut. I could not go across Miss Johnson or Miss Smith's yard without them holding me accountable. And accountability wasn't them yelling out and saying, little Bobby, stop running. It was going to my parents or calling and saying, your son continues. It's the exact same behavior. What makes the Wicked Witch wicked? So what makes something bad is how I choose to perceive it, and that has everything to do with the conditioning that I've received. And I may not see, and I thank you, Dr. Wendy, for sharing. I experienced colorectal cancer. I was in high school, senior. Colorectal cancer. And I was like, okay, got it, but I still need to DJ. I need to go to this homecoming event with my girlfriend, Eva. And we got stuff to do. I don't have time to focus on a diagnosis that you are subscribing to an experience that I'm having. And the thing that I love about the deepening of faith, which is just the trust in what I do know without needing to have any additional information, is it really does reinforce be still and know. And the and is a conjunction that pulls two things together. It says, you do this part. We call it regulation now. Everybody running around talking about nervous system regulation. Well, that's the be still. The and is everything that God is doing, seen and unseen, known and unknown, that I don't need to have anything to do with. Like I said, what's happening in Amazon, I don't know what they're doing. When I call to ask for a 6-pack of deodorant, I have no clue what they're doing in the back room, but I know they're doing something. And then the no is what I know. Oh, I received a notification that says it will arrive today between this time and this time. Oh, I received a picture that shows that it's outside, placed on the table where I asked them to place it. Wonderful. Or I received a refund because it was delayed. I know without needing to control the outcome. So a lot of times I think the Wicked Witch is just a witch whose behavior we might find wicked in nature because it appears to be devoid of love. And devoid of love is the absence of faith. That's where I need the proof. So I'm looking for proof for all the wickedness in the world. So when it shows up as colorectal cancer and I say, well, that's a bad thing, I'm just reinforcing, I would say, an spiritually immature understanding of what all that is.
Like a deeper layer of that. I don't know why I'm thinking of this, but it's almost like it's such a distraction, her name, to actually really not allow us to be still and see beyond the label that has been given to her. And like I say, we're looking for evidence because that is what we are saying she is, when you really look, it's almost like that typical thing of like waving the carrot and everyone's so distracted, but stop a minute, okay? Look around the carrot. Ah, I see now. Ah, interesting. Wow.
And I think so much of it comes from, we're looking for the evidence, and what just resonates in my heart right now is the whole idea that we're looking for evidence because of our expectations that are, and it's been said, so this is nothing new coming out of this conversation, but it's been said. Those expectations arise out of our conditioning, how society conditions us, the perspectives, the assignment, good or bad. Society has built that because they are misaligned with our expectations of how life should be. And as I was thinking, I said, okay, because I naturally go from what I'm hearing, say, application. It's this part that missed, I guess that's the and that gets lost from what am I hearing, application. And I think back to my mom, And my mom was had a tendency to self-diagnose. So something hurt her. She's self-diagnosed. I need this. So she said once, my shoulders hurt. I need to go to a neurologist. And this is a true story. So she goes. She gets an appointment with a neurologist. He looks and he says, "No, this is orthopedic. You have a torn rotator cuff." And so she gets it fixed. Okay. 3 years later, she just keels over. Literally, she dies. Diagnosed cardiologist, she dies. And there we are. And we said, she needs help. What help can we get? That neurologist that she didn't need, that referred her to the orthopedist, was the doctor who said, "I'll be her admitting physician in Duke University Hospital," so that she could get, at that time, experimental intervention that added another 15 years to her life.
Wow.
Okay. And all things work together for good. Our expectations in the moment is, mom is always self-diagnosing. And when I tell that story, people say, how could she do that? Why did she do it? Neurologist has nothing to do with it. That's God in motion. That's him in action. That's him in action.
It's making me think about, thank you so much for sharing that, Fran, and thank you all. You've been so vulnerable and shared so many, really, really tricky things that have come up in your life. So I appreciate that, because I believe that sometimes in us being vulnerable and really opening our hearts, it makes it more than just words, not saying that we always have to go through that, but it adds a deeper layer to the depth of what we're actually explaining and experiencing. But it was making me think with that and the story of the tree. Sometimes, and again, I would love all your takes on this, that it makes no sense. Like, it could be a visual that comes into your mind, or a thought, or to go somewhere, or to speak to someone, or to do something, and it makes absolute no sense. It's like, why would I go out of my way now? It's cold, or this or that. And I don't know if you also at the beginning, but it will be on the recording anyway, and if you didn't miss it, oh well, I'm just showing myself out now. But I noticed that something had appeared in my apartment, because there's maintenance happening today. I didn't actually book in for it today. And I noticed something appeared. And if you saw, I turned and I spoke earlier, because the person had left something, okay, in my apartment when I never asked for it. But the reason why I'm highlighting this is because I had a visual just 5 minutes before starting this that I should put it outside my door, and I didn't. You see? And I just feel like everything plays in, and I would never have mentioned that, but it's just really interesting that it was fine. It wasn't a huge disruption. It's an in the moment now, but I think it just confirms again that I was like, why should I do that? Why, I was thinking, and I was so in the moment of this and being present here that I didn't really just do what came through to stop the disruption. And it very minimal, but still, it's just really interesting how that just happened today. And that's never ever happened. And people never, I don't even, anyway, we won't go into it, but I'm not even sure even how they've had access. But anyway, we'll cover that one later. But I'm just yeah, sometimes it makes absolute no sense. But just, you never know if planting that tree, what the reason for it, or changing something, the location of something, is going to prevent something from happening to someone, or you never know.
That's, I think, the development of your discernment, as sometimes you'll do something or didn't do something, and then you said, something told me to do that, and then you didn't do it. It's like, God, I wish I would have done it. But see, that's discernment. And the more you become and more you increase your discernment or it helps with just being able to, I guess, your obedience level, because you don't
Yeah.
have to know why. It's like, okay, if you get that spirit saying do it, do it, because they said disobedient or delayed obedience is disobedience. And I'm a firm believer in being obedient, because when you're not, you're like, oh no. And now I guess I'm more spiritually mature, so my discernment is more keen than it had been back in the day. So when I get the urge, like we just went to a funeral. My husband's best friend, that's why I'm out of town now, passed away, and his character, his long-term life partner, which wasn't his legal wife, but she was there for him like 25 years. I mean, she fed him, cleaned him, did everything for him, because he couldn't do anything. And you know something said to treat her so she can kind of unwind, relax. So I did. My husband said, what are you going to do with that, with some money? And I said, I'm giving it to Goldie, because she needs, spirit told me to give her this so she can treat herself to something, so she can unwind, and because she deserves that. And it's not that I'm the one that is saying she deserved it, but spirit said do it, so I did it. And it's just, I felt good about it, she felt good about it, she was really surprised. It's like, girl, if you need something, you call me. I don't care what it is. But you have to do what God tells you to do, whether it's that, or like I saw a young lady, with a carriage trying to get up some steps. So I said, look, let me help you with that, because the simple things. She's a stranger, I didn't know her, but I'm a firm believer that do what's right, do what's good, do what the Spirit tells you to do it, and don't question why. I don't need to know why. I just know that he said do it. So that discernment is key. And I think a lot of us have gotten away from discernment, and we want to put our own judgment on things. If somebody has done you wrong and they need help, and the Spirit says help them, you're like, I'm not helping them because they did me wrong. We got to get out of that. Help them, because you're going to be blessed 100-fold. And it's just it's just kind of crazy how people would take advantage of you, and then you hold a grudge, or you don't want to pass it forward because somebody took advantage of you. And I've learned the hard way that I'm sowing a seed, and even though it may not feel like a seed right now, I'm going to get 100-fold harvest.
Beautiful.
I like the Shel, as you were giving your sharing your experience, and Dr. Wendy, what you elaborated on was I think something monumental that we should highlight again, which is the obedience, because faith should lead to obedience, and faith leading to obedience, it should align us or allow us to experience the alignment of things that can happen, such as something else that we're going to be talking about here today, which is presence. Is faith leading to obedience, and obedience leads to things being in your presence. And then our presence, which you said, Dr. Wendy, is to discern why we're experiencing, or why something is in front of us or around us. And I believe that those experiences are designed to show us where we're more like him or less like him, so that we can continue to grow internally, so that things around us change as well. Because who we are and who we identify on the inside should be a catapult for something or someone else on the outside of us to change, and vice versa. Because someone being obedient in their moment, doing something, should show us like, I knew I should have done this, I knew I should have done that, or what made me think that I didn't have to do this, or I didn't have to do that, whatever the scenario may be. But it's an ebb and flow of experiences that show us there's something inside of us that is communicating to draw us back to a aligned path, a divine path, a willed path, a purposeful path. Ultimately, something to align us to be one with him, so that we never have to experience what it is to be outside of whatever his plan is for the moment. Because his plan ultimately is to rule and control our lives, our decisions, our words, our thoughts, even our emotions, though sometimes that those can get out of whack, because we have our human nature about ourselves. But these experiences and what I would like to define are a kaleidoscope of what we think about the reality that we are experiencing based on the past. It goes back to the Wicked Witch, and even in any movie or anything that any theatric vision that we see, it's what we're experiencing or what we're seeing through our eyes is aligning us with our understanding of reality based on what's in front of us, even if it's not true. It could very much so be an illusion, but that still should take us back to the faith point. Okay, I know I'm seeing this, but what is it telling me about myself?
I think that's so important, especially the illusion, because how many times as well when you have that knowing and that faith and the reality is so far from that, and it's like, oh, but I know, and then it's like, do you know? So yeah, I hear you with that one. I think that's the beauty of the unfolding as well. Like, actually, the more I think you know and you're aware of it and you are obedient and you trust, it actually becomes less of a waiting and a worry and more of like I'm excited to see how this is going to unfold now. Obviously it depends on the situation, but in general, even with your example, Dr. Wendy, even all the awful things that were happening to you, and I know it wouldn't have been straight away, but you still were able to see some good and a blessing in all that was happening to you. And that's the thing. Somewhere you'll see that little bit of glitter, that little bit of sparkle. You'll see something. You'll see, even if it's someone else, like a child playing, a baby giggling, curious of the world, there will be something in every single situation if we really look, and we will see it. That will just change the perspective a little bit, or bring that little bit of joy in that moment. And it's not saying, everything is always going to be like a walk in the park and easy, but equally, we have that power to choose in every single situation.
I, share that my cancer journey, and not just my cancer journey, my entrepreneurial journey. I've been through some ups and downs, and a lot of downs that at the time you don't think they're good, but the breast cancer situation made me the financial healer and have my financial cures. That all came from the breast cancer journey. People need help and they need the right perspective. I don't talk about I'm talking about anorexic income, pain of inflation, obese debt, because people can relate to that, but they don't want to hear about budgeting and all that. When you say budgeting, people kind of shut down. But when I talk about, suffering from pain of inflation, it's like, yeah, I'm suffering from that, or anorexia, yeah, I got that, so it gives them a better perspective or a clear perspective where they can kind of open up and see how it relates, because finances are personal. And I tell people, you have to be transparent with yourself, because some people don't want to accept the fact that they need help, or they don't want to accept the fact that they can have control over their finance and their destination, and creating generational wealth. So you have to change their thinking, transform their mindset from the I can't to how can I, because I can't shuts down everything. You're not going to even look at a way, but if you say how can I, all kind of things open up. So when you become more have more faith, you find out, okay, Lord, what's your will? How can I do what you're telling me to do, achieve my purpose for my life? And it's I'm just thankful that I'm at the stage I'm at now in life, even though I'm saying, I got 60 is the new 40 as I deal with it, even though I'm more than 60. But the bottom line is, I'm grateful to have the perspective and gone through the experiences I have, because whatever happens now, I can deal with it, whether it seems to be good or bad. I don't worry about it, because I know God's got me. And whatever, journey I'm going to be on, I know if he's giving me a vision, he's giving me provision. if he's put me on that journey, he's paving the way. So I don't even question or worry or fear about things, because I know that whatever it is what it's supposed to be. So I'm just thankful to him for that. And I'm thankful for the folks that pour into me, like this panel, just hearing the perspectives today. It's like, okay, I can relate to that. That's good. More confirmation on what I'm thinking. So it's really, I appreciate you guys.
So much. And I know D'Angelo touched on it a little bit already, but presence. I actually, the moment when someone really said to me that the present moment is a gift, the whole meaning, and I'm a very visual person, of that word it just changed it for me. Because I think, we hear these words, past, present, future, all this, that, and the other. But sometimes when we really add that narrative or that meaning behind something, it just lands a different way, I think. And it really is, because when we really think about it, we only have this very moment. It's not saying to not think for the future, not have these high hopes, not have these ambitions, not be excited about something. But the gift is right now, in this moment today. We are all here right now. We woke up today and we're doing what we're doing today, or being what we're being today, in this exact moment. And I think there's so much beauty in that, when you really be present, and especially when your mind is so chaotic and so busy, to just remember, I'm here right now, I'm safe, whatever words you want to tell yourself, and just give gratitude for this moment right now.
For me, the presence piece is only about a state, and it's defined by whose I say I am. Right? So if I'm operating from fear, then the whose is the illusory ego. It's the one that has me going back looking for proof, setting things up and trying to control and manipulate. But if I say I am, child of the Most High, I'm God's creation, I am a living physical expression of all that God is, then that's a presence that is in this current state I call now. So my sons are 22. In elementary school, they called me, they must have been in 5th or 6th grade, and they had a sleepover at a friend's house, and they said, "Pops, this party isn't fun." And I said, "Okay, so what do you want me to do?" And they're like, "The party is not fun." I said, "May I share with you how I understand that?" And of course they were like, "Yeah, go ahead." I said, "What I'm hearing is you're not fun at the party. Your presence. You're not being fun. I mean, you got a house with games and food, and that food isn't fun. Games aren't fun. I can have fun with a game, but the game intrinsically is not fun." So they got that, and ever since that, they would walk into different spaces and they understood who they were being and how they showed up and what they brought to the party is what made the difference. And then they got clear, because my wife and I would have house parties. Like, we still do old school house parties. And that's because we just love, quite frankly, this metaphysical thing. I say I'm your metaphysical DJ. I've been a DJ since I was 12. But I've always loved how music transforms experiences. So I don't need people shaking booties to shake booties. I'm talking about, if you ever look at the energy in a room where people have gathered around a song that takes them back in the day, which really doesn't take you back, it just brings an experience to the present. And it allows you to move past it being nostalgic, where you look at folk and you just smile and you don't know them. That's presence. I don't care how you got there, and I don't care what you do after that, but when you can connect, all of the defense mechanisms are put aside. So we would throw parties and people would say, "Man, we come to your house," and there's just something about the energy. The energy is talking about presence in the space. And we would share with people the reason we invited you, Shal, the reason we invited you, Dr. Wendy, the reason Dr. D'Angelo, I invited you to the party is because. And we would share something about the gift that you are, that you bring to the experience. Not because we need 70 people at our house until 4 o'clock in the morning. Matter of fact, we don't want y'all there till 4 o'clock, but the energy just keeps it going until we go, hey, y'all ain't got to go home. But so presence for me allows us to experience life as it is now.
It's funny that you mentioned that.
Go on, D'Angelo.
There's a woman, her name is Janika Borgia, and she was listening to a song by an R&B artist that released her debut album back in 2003 or 2004 or sometime. But her listening to that song with the video, I watched it, and it connected me with, or it brought forward my childhood, but also some of my adulthood as well, because one of those songs is a song that's featured in the playlist that's going to be associated with my childhood autobiography. So we sent her an email yesterday to let her know, like, hey, when we have an event in that region, you and your family are invited just because of that song. It has nothing to do with anything outside of the video other than me seeing, like, wait a minute, like, I love this song because it was a song that my older sister used to listen to, but it was also specifically because of the bass line, because I used to be an instrumentalist, or still am in some sense or another. But the bass line and the song that it connected me with from my childhood, which was a Jeffrey Osborne song, or composed by Jeffrey Osborne. But it reminds me of an internal feeling that just as a masculine individual that was disassociated from my childhood, that you long for, but you hear it coming from different places and what you should desire, which is everything that everyone's looking for in life: love, presence, faith, obedience, gratitude, all of it. It's all to bring us into a full understanding and revelation on what we're looking for, and even just small moments. It's love.
I like that presence analogy because, well, I'm a positive person and I don't like that negative energy coming to my little circle. But I have one lady at church, I call her Debbie Downer. She comes up to me, oh, this. I said, look, don't come in that pity party, Debbie Downer attitude. Come back when you got it more positive. So it was so funny because just recently she got a job, because at first she was complaining about, losing her job and all that. And I said, girl, you can start your own business. God shut that door for you to do something else, and look and see what it is you're supposed to be doing. So just recently, she got hired in an airline, and she thanked me for just, keeping her a check on the negative attitude. She said, I'm not negative like I used to be. And I think every time I think about saying something negative, I think about you calling me Debbie Downer and going to the pity party. And so many people get caught up in that past that they don't look at the present. They don't look at the opportunities. Again, they like, I can, or I won't, I can't, I don't, instead of saying, how can I? So she's kind of gotten away from that, negative can't attitude, and now she's more positive. And she said, I thank you for that. And I didn't even think I had that kind of impact on her, but that was good to know, because I'm like, don't bring that over here, because I don't do the negativity. Until you get positive, don't come in my circle. If you need a quick pick you up to get into the positive zone, then yeah, but don't think I'm going to spend 20 minutes with you hearing your problems. I'll hear what your issue is and try to, offer a solution if that's what you want to get from me, or I'll let you vent for a short time, but you're not pouring that into me. Be grateful for what's happening today, even though it may not look like what you want. It's still you're breathing. You got food on your table and a roof over your head. Be grateful for the basics that you're complaining about. You may not have a paycheck, but your bills are getting paid. Something's happening that's working out for you. So look at that instead of not about not having the job.
Yeah. the power. The power is in the now. Contrary to what quantum physics says, past, present, and future is happening all at the same time, right? That's what quantum physics said. But the reality human beings, we tend to be kind of one-dimensional. We got the now. This is where we are. We have an opportunity in this moment to focus in, and we choose, right? We choose whether or not, if we're people of faith, we choose, do we want to think like God? We want to have the mind of God in this present moment? Or do we want to have the mind of something else?
Yeah.
And as I listen to you, to what everyone is saying, and we're talking about that presence, wow, that question, that instead of saying why, how is it today, Lord, that I'm going to manifest your promise that I know is true? Because if you said it, willingness and ability are equal. And I can do that in this moment by choice.
I'd like to offer something about the choice. Because one of the things that's clear is we who are gathered in this moment, we get this at the level that we get it and understand it. But here's what I know to be true in my own journey. I could have talked to y'all at any point in time in my journey, and I'd have given you this look.
Yes.
So let me just be true to who I am,
Yeah.
because I recognize my wicked witch moments. Okay? This sounds really good. And I can go and say, well, let the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart, and I can tell you where to find it. That's all great. But if what I've been in is survival mode, survival mode will keep my nervous system in such an active state that love or truth or all of these ways of being, because presence is not a doing, it's a being. Right? Shakespeare's Hamlet, he doesn't say to do or not to do, he says to be or not to be. He's talking about his state, his presence. There are going to be some moments where we're going to find ourselves in a capacity building experience and we don't know that that's what's happening. The things that we judge or criticize, the things that we don't have discernment around, the things that don't come easy, the things that didn't show up the way we thought we did, despite the fact of having 20, 30, 40 decades of faith in a capacity building mode. Faith is tested because your capacity has been stretched and you are moved into a new unknown. For a lot of people, this conversation is going to feel unknown. For a lot of people, the conversation, we use the word triggering. That just means nervous system is activated. That means my nervous system says, I understand it intellectually, but I don't possess the capacity to take this in, or I can take it in, but I don't know how long I can hold this. How long, when we say keep the faith, we're talking capacity building. Keep the faith, spiritual jargon. Capacity building is the cognitive, the psychological, whatever understanding of that. So when we have the be still and know, that and piece where stuff is happening that we can't see is a capacity moment that may be represented by some people's listening even to what we're sharing, which is why I appreciate it. In some way, each one of us has shared a personal story without it being scripted, so that the listener and the viewer can understand we didn't get here without there being, a story. And, in religious...
And ongoing.
Right. Like, we use the word testimony, but a testimony really is just the presence of God in the midst of the experience. So if you're having an experience, to anybody that's listening, you're going, yeah, but I don't know how long I can hold it. Yeah, but I don't know how long I can do it. The presence isn't about doing, it's about being, and it offers the formula be, do, have. Notice we go back to be still. It doesn't say do it. And he didn't say be still and think. It said be still and know. And the know comes through the clarity that's created when everything that we call static. Y'all remember on the radio, you turn to your favorite station, your song, Jeffrey Ob, do 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 do. That's, come on now. I don't look. You can't mess with me when you right. Oh, concentrate.
Just go ahead.
Did you get so mad about it? Did you have to get so mad? Come on now, right?
You know
and then you drive too far. You drive too far away from the station, and you get the static.
Right, absolutely.
Here's what has shown up in my life, and then I'm complete. There's been a shift from focusing on the static, yo, you're messing up Jeffrey Osborne's song, to recognizing that God, that is the signal and source, is still underneath it. So I'm in a place now where I recognize, how about I just turn it off because there's a lot of static and just sing the song? Instead of getting caught up in what I can't do. That's what I heard you say, Dr. Wendy. People coming to me talking about what they can't do, and we transform the thinking into what's possible, what can you do. Some people are going to listen to this and be in the Wicked Witch or the Dorothy irresponsible mode. If I go back real quick, the reason Dorothy was held accountable by Mrs. Gulch, not in trouble, she was held accountable. Dorothy needed all of that transpired to happen in order for her to awaken to love, awaken to the presence and the truth of who she is, because in the beginning she didn't know. And it is a journey that takes us through even a moment like this, where you may find, you being the listener, the audience, that maybe I'm in a place and in a state where I don't trust my presence. Maybe I'm in a place or a state where who I say I am has been downgraded and diminished in my family gatherings, in my settings, in my relationships. Can't go to the barbershop without them talking smack. Can't get my nails did without them talking smack. Can't be out, listen to the great one that's here, the one that's telling us how wonderful it is in building. You know, there are things that are inviting us to focus so much on the physical and honor what we believe is the evidence, that moments like this where we pull back the curtain and find that the great and powerful was nothing but an illusion, and the great and powerful was a representation of fear, that it is okay, that if this moment doesn't land with you, there is nothing wrong. Every show and every moment's not designed to land, but if you stayed this long, trust that you have the capacity, and this is filling you, and there's nothing you need to do with it, because presence isn't about doing, it's being. Just be with it. Be with it all.
Oh my gosh, I'm so happy that you brought
Prue,
that up.
Would you agree that part of that is practice, right?
Well,
is it practice over time? Because it never shows up at the very beginning. I bet you I'm older than all of y'all. But Jeffrey was my boy. I liked his music too. But and you're right. At any given moment, when that test comes, even when you practice, I have to join in with you. Even when you practice, that test comes. Sometimes you just you get so blown away. And then something snaps. I used to tell people, because I used to be a relationship coach, and I would tell them, lay on the floor and look under your bed and look at the dust bunnies. When you're in your space, lay on the floor, look at the dust bunnies under that bed or under the sofa, and that will completely unhinge all that negativity that's floating around, because you need something to interrupt it. And the practice is, how do you interrupt it? So I'm with you with that. Sometimes we don't all get it. It may take us a whole lot to get there. I can't argue that.
Get it when you get it. All popcorn kernels don't pop at the same time.
Right.
Don't pop at all.
That's right.
Well, this is why I am so happy that you've brought this up, because what I always love to do, because you're 100% right, it's easy, right? Not easy, that's wrong, but it's okay for us to right now be in this moment, but 100% we're here together today, not to just talk about where we are right now. We're here to actually do something that's often quite challenging, is think back. And that's exactly what I was wanting us to do. And then you just came out of that, and I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, so I would love your take on this, because I'm just going to speak from my perspective, and then I'd love you to all share your perspective. So I always like to think back to the process that, when we often, in my case, I didn't have the luxury of a coach, of a mentor. I was using YouTube videos. I was trying to jump when I was really so many steps behind, etc., etc., etc. So I found that, say for instance, gratitude, okay, as that's something we're talking about today. I started with the doing. It was very much doing in order to reprogram, in order to do another, to know another way of being, okay? But I didn't know about the being at the time. It was the doing, and it was writing or saying and listening and, taking that advice, and often being like, why am I doing this? But I was doing, until I got to a point where I was like, it's a being, it's an embodiment. I don't need to do this anymore. And so I think it's very easy now to talk about the embodiment or the being right now. But when I really, truly, this is my experience, no one else's, but when I really think back to everything that I did up to this point of getting to where I am today, it very much was doing. I had to do in order to become and be and remind myself of who I actually am at my core. But I had to remove a lot of layers, and so I'd love your take on that, because I remember, and even when I listen to it now, and there's nothing wrong with that, but I when people say, write this many times and do this 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 and do this, and I'm like, gosh, just the thought of it all makes me feel like, but once it makes sense. Why? Because you need to have that integration period and that reprogramming in order to be like, oh, I don't need to do that anymore, because it's just within. I just feel that gratitude. I just feel that love. So yeah, I just love your take on that.
I find that you have to do early on. I know when I first started my entrepreneurial journey over 4 decades ago, I can't believe I'm saying 4 decades, but my colleagues used to tease me because there wasn't the internet or social media, and the only thing you do with a cell phone was make an expensive phone call. But I used to deliver my own products because back in the day, you either had, delivery service or trucking company do it, and I did it myself because, for one, money was tight and it was cheaper that way. But for two, it ended up helping me develop some relationships with the people in receiving who were also able to give me some orders under a certain dollar amount. So I would walk away with business. But as I, became more experienced in entrepreneurial journey, I was able to know what the person I hired to do was supposed to do. So I did it because I knew firsthand that when I hire you, this is what you need to do. It's not that I'm hiring you and then I take a chance that you know what you're going to do. So doing, I think, is important because it educates you on how it needs to be done or what needs to be done. So when you're in that being stage, you can be there comfortably because you know what people that are supposed to be doing, what it is they're supposed to be doing. So I think you have to have a certain level of doing or a certain phase of doing. So when you get to that being stage, then you can appreciate it, you can enjoy it, and you can know with confidence what the doing is supposed to be done. So I don't know if I made that clear, but you have to do. But thank God I'm not in the doing stage like before, because I'm got too old, my mind doesn't work like it used to, so I'd rather pay somebody. But I still have to know what they're supposed to do. Just because I pay you doesn't mean you're gonna always do the right thing, or I got to be able to discern the right people to be able to be in that comfortable being, and it's not always comfortable. So doing is important, but you don't need to stay in the doing mode. You
Yeah.
can't micromanage. You can't stay there forever. You need to graduate to the being mode.
Look,
I like that idea. Go
please.
ahead, Bruce.
Go ahead, Frank.
I like that idea about doing. You do get to learn a lot about things, particularly as an entrepreneur, how things go, the way things are, right? I can't do marketing now. When I started, I had an idea from looking over the fence. Now I'm appreciating what it takes. But I also now know when someone comes to me and makes me an offer, that ain't probably hitting the right thing. Okay, I can make that distinction. But that reality about getting into that being, I mean, that embodiment of who you are, that's huge. No, be still, be still. It's just where I want to be. Because I know I like to do, but where I want to be is to be.
And look, let me just offer. It's not aware. That's the illusion. It's not where. It's a who. It's not aware. So please, if I don't say nothing else, there is no, we talk about the person I'm becoming and it's an unfolding. That just means where the human consciousness understands what the heightened spiritual essence that we are is bringing into our knowing, which is why now I don't use overstand or understand or wow, that was powerful. I go, oh, I remember. Because if I'm a child of the Most High, if the Father and I are one, I come already knowing. It's the human part of me that isn't aware of all that I know. And where does the knowing come from? It's not outside of me. It comes from inside. It's like popcorn. People that like popcorn, have you ever taken the time to stop to think that you're really eating it from the inside out?
Mm-hmm.
It possesses everything that it needs, but specifically water. When heated, it pops. So the part we enjoy that we put salt and caramel on is the inside. It was already there. The oak tree, it starts as a seed, contains everything that it needs within. The tree is birthed from the inside out. So knowing is from the inside out. There is nothing to become other than become aware of more of who you are through allowance, through willingness. That just means I'm not adding static to the signal, to God's signal. That's when I say signal, I'm talking God. And call it whatever you want. But if God's word is the manna from heaven that nurtures me, anything I make up is the static. So by removing or allowing myself to move below the static, James Brown had a song, didn't really care for it, but he said no static. He didn't say it like that, y'all know it. No static! Y'all know it. Come on now, don't act like y'all know James Brown. So he's saying, I don't want anything that's going to interfere with what I am. And I think a lot of times we hold beingness as a destination, which then promotes doing. Well, I got to do in order to have that, then I'll be happy. And I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with that. I'm just offering there's a shift from doing to have, and then be to be, do, have. Because again, if you go back to be still and know, it doesn't say get still and then be. It starts with who are you being? And stillness isn't inactivity. That's not what stillness means. It's a settling of all of that cognitive stuff, all of the illusory thought that interferes with the truth of who you are. And if I don't know who I'm called to be in this moment, oh my God, how perfect would it be to get still? Because I know I don't know. Now I can make some stuff up, but if I make some stuff up, then that's going to take me down a whole nother path, potentially, presumably. But to learn, to move away from do, to have, to be, do, have, that is the shift from those that understand chakra, language, and energy. It's a shift from the lower region, which is the heart, is the bridge to the upper region. It's no accident that Dorothy goes over a rainbow, the representation of the 7 chakras, just the energy that moves through the body. And when that energy is stagnant, then we move into doing by default. And that shift is, okay, let me be still because I know I don't have the answer to this. Let me be still because I know the pattern is to make up stuff that just gives me more work to do. Let me be still and shift my language. And y'all go ahead and work. I'm going to play. I don't know why I need to adopt work. Why do I need to adopt that when I can play? Play is not irresponsible. Play is devoid of attachment. But see, that would then represent who I am as my presence, and then I can be grateful for what's given to me in the moment without understanding how it fits or what it's designed to do or that more is going to come. Just, I am grateful. If nothing else, I'm grateful that it's no worse than how I perceive it to be. And then let me trust. There we go. Principle of trust. Because I can't do it. I can only be it. So, I don't trust you says I don't trust me. Got it. Okay, so let me be with this before I start projecting it on you and calling you wicked and finding everything that's wrong with you and then talking about how I am in the world as a falsehood. So let me, again, just, there's no place to get to with who we are. There's no place to get to. It is a choice to just simply go, okay, if I don't know, then let me listen to the highest part of me that can inform me. But it's not a destination because we got too many people in therapy now trying to get someplace. They are it. You are love. You are peace. You are clarity. You are discernment. You are accountability. You are responsibility. You are it. You may not know it or may not accept it, but it's not a destination. It's a state of being that you choose.
I like your analogy with the popcorn, how, everything's in the seed. And it's just like us, just like today, we're feeding into somebody. And they may not use it today, but there's going to be a time where they have to be still and they can pull out something that's going to trigger the answer to what they need because they heard it here today. It may be a year from now, a month from now, maybe back, when your childhood, a music, a song that was played and brings back, and you're still, but you're saying, okay, God, lead me, tell me what to do. And then you think about something that was poured into you and it's like, okay, this is it, but you can't just throw everything away. You want to store good things, but there's some things you don't want in your spirit. But just having everything that you need is right there. You just have to be able to tune into it and pick it out and use it when it's appropriate. So, a lot of folks say, well, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to do it. It's like, you just have to be still and listen. And then you'll know it's in you. You just have to, if you don't have it, somebody has it. God's going to send the right person to you, the right people, the right opportunities. But you have to, like I said, discernment and obedience. You have to be able to discern and be obedient to make that move. So, we've got it in us, and I'm constantly, letting folks pour into me, but not, I do have a sieve, so everything don't get in, but I still listen because you never know how that can, help you down the line.
And I always say, believing, that faith where you, really now in the being, you're believing, that's action. I want to hear what y'all have to say about that, because a lot of people say be and Prue, you said it. Being, that doesn't imply what we might think it means, right? Doing nothing, because we have some believing, which is some action. What does that mean? Where do you go? Who do you ask? You have to be open to receive. That's what I'm carrying away from this conversation.
I'm even thinking about sorry, D'Angelo, I know you got something to say, but just quickly, even the things you've all said each time. So I don't know what to do. 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 And even the be still. Again, we're almost taking things so literally. And again, it's like, surprise! But please, D'Angelo, because I know you wanted to speak, but I was just thinking, it was just kind of a funny inward joke.
I'm hearing alignment. I'm hearing alignment right now, and I'm going to say this as transparently as I possibly can without adding any of my perspective in the way. And for the audience, when everyone is saying be still, every speaker, every representative, every leader, whoever you may consider us to be, everyone is saying be still, and they're referencing Psalm 45:7, where he says, be still and know that I'm God, which means know that whatever's happening, I'm in control of it, so you don't have to worry about it, but just be now, be in the moment, be love. And one of the things that we struggle with is our patience. So it's be still, meaning be patient, because if you be patient, you would strengthen your self-control. And we need our self-control strengthened, because patience and self-control are one of the two primary fruit of the Spirit, which has the ability to reinforce or disrupt everything about what we think, know, feel, and understand about our identity. Now, in our identity, when our patience and our self-control is disrupted, all the other 7 fruit of the Spirit are disrupted, particularly the one that leans back to the love, because the love should bring us to a faith that leads to obedience. But love ultimately should mean obedience, but isn't it? It is an obedience of an understanding of what to do, when to do it, where to do it, why you're doing it, and how it should be done. Because God is a God of order. He's not just a God of order, he's a God of holiness. So to be still, it's to break down what everyone is saying, our cognitive understanding of who we are, to get reprogrammed and realigned and recentered to who we were created to be before the nature of who we are today came into existence, which is people who are able to recognize, comprehend, and entreat sin. So being still is to allow God to speak, to tell you if your decision is like him or if it is not like him, because the decision that you make will reflect your love or lack of love for his order, his laws, his will, his ways. And what that means is this: any decision that we make, and I say we very intentionally, any decision that we make, it should always align with what we see in those 10 commandments that he gave Moses. It should reflect our ability to not make decisions that are any of the 7 hateful sins or abominations, or any other thing written in the Bible that God says he hates, which is very, very, very interesting, because the very things he hates, we innately hate them ourselves. Unless someone tells us that it's okay to not hate it, to make it acceptable. And I've been saying this a lot lately. It has become difficult for people to live in a world where we are expected to obey God, amongst others who tells us that it's okay not to. And the problem is, everyone doesn't know him. And even those who think they know, or amongst us who think and believe we know, sometimes we still don't. So to be, we should be aligning ourselves with the knowledge of him, because at the end of the day, had Adam and Eve just sat still and just waited, would they have been convinced that they were going to be something more than what they already were? Probably not. Our problem is that we can't be still because we make decisions based on our own understanding and our desire to control, dominate, influence, gain, manipulate, or sabotage what's supposed to be because of what we think is supposed to be, because someone else told us that it was the path. And the path has always been and always will be the same. It's up to us to choose to be so that we find it. Because the kingdom is first found within. Because when we leave, we're leaving from within. So if we choose not to accept the identity of who we are as spiritual beings before anything, because we're spirit before we were flesh. In fact, Adam and Eve never even knew that they were flesh until someone exposed it to them. They only knew themselves as spiritual holy beings because they were made in the image and likeness of the very thing, the very entity that created them. So they were comprehensive to who they were as spirits, enjoying, I would say, for lack of better words, blindly enjoying the beauty of what existed around them until someone showed them or taught them to expect the latter results as the everyday reality. It's like we gave the popcorn analogy. Everybody loves the popcorn, but they don't appreciate what the popcorn has to become to produce the satisfaction that they desire. Everyone loves steak, but they don't take in consideration the fact that a cow has to experience death for them to enjoy a prime rib or ribeye. Or I'd say everyone's favorite, T-bone, or maybe even a tomahawk. There's a process for everything. But in that process comes a sacrifice. But the problem is we're choosing to sacrifice what we could be to be who we want to be, to become nothing at all. Because at the end of the day, if we're not who he said we are, who he says we should be, then we failed. And I can't really say we failed because catastrophic events draw us back to him anyway. And then we wish we had have done it the right way the first time, which is all a part of the experience, because life is truly an experience of love. As a war between good and bad to help us understand the essence of who we are. It is taking what we know about the outside and looking inward to find out who we are, so that we align or realign with the source, so that the outside is just an illusion. It is a temporary placeholder. And this is the last thing I'll say before don't be so heavenly
like you're
inclined to no earthly good. Okay.
Could you say that again, D'Angelo? Because it
Don't be so
like
heavy.
you were underwater.
Everyone, I don't know if everyone's heard, but I'm sure everyone has heard this saying, and it's pretty folklore to me. Don't be so heavenly inclined that you know earthly good. But God doesn't expect us to store up our treasures in earthly things. So if we're not heavenly inclined, then we're not good for the kingdom, which means we're not good for the kingdom to come, or we're not good for the kingdom within, because we're so focused on what's happening around us, and we're not understanding that everything that is happening around us is spiritual. We just comprehend it from a fleshly perspective, because the flesh is only the evidence of what we can see or what we cannot see as wrapped. It's evidence in what we should perceive or what we shouldn't perceive. And that goes back to what Dr. Wendy was talking about. Strengthening and sharpening your discernment. Who are you? Who are we? And why? Because when we can figure out who we are and why we are, we'll understand how we should be every second of our lives.
Really, everybody, thank you so much. And what really, I feel like people will need to watch this more than once. There's multiple layers, but equally, just given the time, and I want to ensure that everybody feels like they've really expressed everything that they wanted to share today. If there is anything that you still in this, not doing the whole time thing, but in this last time together for this lovely discussion, want to express anything that you feel like the listeners would really benefit from hearing, like, feel free to share that now. And to find out more about all these incredible speakers, all their episodes are going to be in the description, all their information. Please reach out to them, because there's a reason why we're not just having this conversation today. There's a much greater reason why you're listening to these powerful minds and perspectives, and there's so many more layers to each and every one of us. And I'm really thankful for this conversation today. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Well, I'd like to share my mantra. I'll cut off the last part because I think that'll be, this is very appropriate. It's when you think right, speak right, and do right, things will flow right. And normally I say to optimize your financial health, but I'm just going to chop that off. But when I say things, I mean, your discernment, your relationships, your opportunities, your being and your presence, they all flow right. They all become aligned right. So remember, think right, speak right, and do right. So things will flow right. And it's been a pleasure with you, everybody, today.
Yes, I agree. Fantastic. What comes to mind is something, and I just embrace, and we know all things work together for good. And I always go back to that. And because of that, I know that things always work out. I didn't say the way I wanted, but it
That's
works
another
out.
panel discussion.
Because when I'm being, I am being whose I'm being. Wow. I am totally relaxed. I am not attached to the outcome, because the outcome might be through my expectations. It always works out.
Yes.
That's good. I'll close with gratitude honors what has been given. Faith trusts what's unfolding. That's that and. And presence allows us to experience life now. And the key in that for me is the word life. So if I'm being who I was designed to be, I'm living, not surviving. So it allows me to experience me as an expression of the divine right now. I thank you. It's been great. Thank you each for the piece you've given for my journey. I appreciate it.
You're on mute, D'Angelo.
Seek first the kingdom of God and all his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you. So I want to say that God's righteousness is found in his love. And everyone here has something to offer to transform someone's understanding of self, to include myself, because I've taken away from a lot of what you all have said as well. So what I would like to share is that for us who are speaking amongst one another as peers, personal and professional, and even those who are in the audience watching, I want you all to know that I love you, and God loves you as well. And just because you don't feel like you figured it out, it does not mean that you never will. You're still learning. We all are still learning. And we're all experiencing his divine timing. So take something away from this moment to understand that you've just been giving an answer to a question that you may have always had and didn't know that you already knew the answer. You just needed it articulated a different way.
Beautiful. I think that just summarizes well, which what all of you have said. It's never a destination, and that's the beauty. So really, thank you all so much, and thank you to all the incredible listeners. And May we have many more of these incredible collaborations in the future. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Absolute joy.
Thank you.
That's the magic that Zest is in.